This is the Garmin Forerunner 255, and it represents the evolution of the wildly popular Garmin Forerunner 245 that was released over 2 years ago. People loved the 245, and Garmin has sold a ton of them over the years. However, it wasn't perfect in some areas, and it kind of was getting a little long in the tooth, and that's where the 255 comes in. The Garmin Forerunner 255 aims to improve on the 245 in a few key areas like GPS accuracy, form factor, and the built-in heart rate sensor, along with battery life and a ton of software updates. So let's take a look. Before we dive into all the details of the 255, I do want to mention that this is not the only new thing from Garmin today. In fact, they also released the brand new Forerunner 955 at the same time, which has a lot in common to the 255 at a higher price point. And if you want to learn about this watch and a few extras it has, check out the link that I'll put up here. But in this video, let's focus on the 255. So what is the Garmin Forerunner 255? This is Garmin's upper mid-level offering in terms of feature and price point. And this watch is designed for people looking for a solid, reliable device with lots of features at a reasonable price point. And in this video, I'll be covering the major updates on the 255 in terms of hardware and feature sets coming from the older 245, and I won't be digging too deep into every little feature and menu item because that would get a little bit boring, and that's what this video is all about. We're going to stick to what's new in the 255 compared to the 245. When it comes to purchasing options on the 255, there's a lot to choose from. First, there are two main versions, the 255 and the 255 Music. The 255 comes in at $349 and the 255 Music comes in at $399. And the only difference between these two, you guessed it, is that the 255 Music has built-in music storage. So you can download things like Spotify music, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more directly to the watch and listen to it with Bluetooth headphones, phone free, out on your runs, which is really nice, and I think it's worth $50 more. But if you never use that feature, you can go for the cheaper $349 255 and pay a little less for a feature you won't use. That price point of $350 US or $399 US dollars puts it squarely in the middle of the lineup from Garmin, with the cheapest being the Garmin Forerunner 55 all the way on the left here, and the most expensive being the Forerunner 955 all the way on the right here, coming in at $600 to $700 depending on the model you choose. And on top of the music versus non-music options, you've now got two different sizes to choose from. There's the big one called the 255, and then there's the small one called the 255S. For the purpose of this video, we'll be looking at the 255 Music, which is the larger version. Depending on the model you choose for the 255, you've got 6 colors to choose from black, white, powder gray, slate gray, tidal blue, and bubblegum pink, which is pretty wild. Quick interruption, if you're finding this video useful or helpful or fun or anything, make sure you go down and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. That would be great. Also, if you're planning on picking up a Forerunner 255, check out the links in the description down below because that helps support this channel. Okay, back to the video. When it comes to the design and build quality on the 255, it's very similar to the older 245 with the exception of the overall size. You can see here that both are entirely made out of plastic and both do have metal buttons. And they're nice and clicky and tactile, and they don't feel cheap or mushy or anything like that. The overall design aesthetic of the 255 is very minimalistic and clean. There's really not a whole lot going on, and I like that about it. I do like this color a lot. It's got a black bezel and a white body with a blue accent that's really hard to see, but it does kind of make it look really sharp and clean, and I like the look of this watch overall. And if you're used to Garmin's, you'll know that this is a standard 5-button layout with 2 buttons on the right and 3 buttons on the left. And of course, being an outdoor running style watch, this watch is waterproof to 5 atmospheres or 50 meters, so you're good for going swimming in the pool or open water, just no deep water diving. The included band on the Forerunner 255 is a silicone band. It's nice and stretchy and comfortable, and it is quick release, so you can see these little pins here. They can push with your thumbnail and pop them out and replace them with any quick release band from Garmin or from Amazon from a third party. When it comes to size and weight on the Forerunner 255, it's pretty interesting because it's almost the exact same footprint as the brand new 955. The Forerunner 255 comes in at 45.6 millimeters in diameter, and it's about 12.9 millimeters thick, but it's only 49 grams. On the other hand, if you go for the smaller 255S, that comes in at a smaller 41 millimeters in diameter and only 12.4 millimeters thick, and 10 grams lighter at 39 grams, which is crazy light. And in terms of comfort and size and things like that, the 255 has been very comfortable for me. I have no issue wearing it all day long, to bed at night, sleeping with it, going to work with it. It really has been kind of the type of device you forget's there because it's so light and sleek and lightweight. When it comes to the display on the 255, you're looking at a 1.3-inch display, which is actually the same size display as on the more expensive 955. This is a memory and pixel transflective display, so it's not an AMOLED display or very bright and vibrant like an Apple Watch or something like that. This is more utilitarian for use in direct sunlight where it's very easy to read. However, as you can see, when it gets dark, it does have a backlight, which does illuminate when you flip your wrist up, and that's also very nice and easy to read. I will say that the backlight is a little bit washed out when I compare it to something like the Forerunner 955 here. The 955 appears to have more contrast to it, while the 255 is a little gray and bluish, but both of them are not bad and they're both very usable. One thing to note about the display on the Forerunner 255 is that this is not touch enabled. It's not like the new 955 that does have a touch enabled display. That's one of the bigger differences between these two. To be honest though, using the buttons on a sports watch is not a big deal to me. I do like the touch display on the Fenix 7 and 955, but the buttons here work really well, and if it's raining or you're sweaty or anything like that, you don't have to worry about accidental swipes on the screen. Now that we've talked about the hardware differences on the 255, let's jump into the guts and sort of the feature set that make it so different. I'm going to start the list of new things with what I thought was the most surprising on the 255, and that is multi-band GPS mode. For those of you unaware, multi-band or multi-frequency GPS is essentially a feature that allows the watch to lock on to more satellites during an activity by utilizing multiple frequencies or bands rather than a single band. I'm grossly dumbing this down because, to be honest, I don't fully understand it, but it's basically the gold standard of GPS positioning technology, and we've got that now in the Garmin Forerunner 255. And what I found really interesting about multi-band GPS mode on the 255 is that if we look at the premium flagship Garmin Fenix 7, you had to spend more money on the Fenix 7 Sapphire to get multi-band GPS mode, which can cost up to $1,000. Strange move, Garmin, but I do like what you did there. And I'm gonna generalize GPS accuracy on the Garmin Forerunner 255 a little bit. I've had this watch for about 3 weeks now. I've taken it out on a bunch of test runs. I've got a whole bunch of test data, and to be honest, all of the modes are super accurate. Now in multi-band mode, you will see some increase in accuracy. It's really super accurate, but even in the base GPS only mode, I found an increase of accuracy as compared to the older Garmin Forerunner 245. So for me, I feel like the GPS only mode is perfectly adequate for anything like road running, trail running, or even hiking, but you may want to dive into that multi-band GPS mode if you're in a slot canyon, you're in a city with tall skyscrapers around you, maybe you're in the mountains and you're next to a big cliff face. That might be a situation where you would benefit from multi-band mode. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic with GPS watches, and that's going to be battery life. There's a few things to go through here, so stick with me. On the larger Garmin Forerunner 255 and 255 Music, you're looking at 14 days in smartwatch mode, 16 hours in multi-band mode, and up to 30 hours in GPS only mode. Now, if you decide to go with the smaller 255S, that changes a little bit. You'll get 12 days in smartwatch mode, 13 hours in multi-band mode, and up to 26 hours in GPS only mode. These battery life numbers are pretty solid, and it means in GPS only mode, most people could run an 100-mile ultramarathon with this watch, and that's pretty awesome. Another new feature on the 255 is the Elevate 4.0 optical heart rate sensor on the back of the watch. This optical heart rate sensor has been featured on a whole bunch of other devices over the past year or so, including the Garmin Fenix 7, the Garmin Forerunner 955, the Garmin Venue 2, and the list goes on and on. And to test the optical heart rate performance on the 255, I've been out on several runs while also wearing a chest ECG sensor and an optical heart rate sensor up on my bicep. For the most part, the 255 has been doing a really good job in terms of optical heart rate performance and accuracy, and that's thanks to its very lightweight and an improved heart rate sensor on the back. That combination really proved to give me pretty solid results from the heart rate sensor. The first thing you'll notice on the 255 is an updated user interface, and that's just globally speaking. It's a little bit more polished, and it looks a little bit more like the Garmin Fenix 7 than some of the older Forerunner models. There's also a few new additional watch faces, like this one I'm using here, which I really like, that shows my VO2 max at the bottom and my distance for the week at the top. And what I found really interesting about the 255 is, unlike the 245, you can actually go into the backlight settings and adjust your brightness from 0 to 100%. This was something that drove me nuts on the older 245 that does not have a brightness setting. Another upgrade to the Garmin Forerunner 255 is the updated training status widget. This widget did exist on the older 245, however, they've tweaked the algorithm a bit and added some more information to this widget. As you can see here, my training status says maintaining, but if I dive into there, you can see training status maintaining, my VO2 max history is steady, we've got my HRV status on the right here, and my acute load at the bottom. And if I scroll down from the screen, it'll actually display all of the factors it's taken into account to come up with that maintaining training status. That includes my acute load, my load focus, my VO2 max, my HRV status, and my recovery time from my last activity. And if I dive into any of these factors even more, I get more information. So here you can see my acute load in a green band that represents my optimal range and a white line that represents where I actually am in that range. Scrolling down, I get even more information about my training load, my anaerobic, high aerobic, and low aerobic states, and then a 7-day breakdown of all of my training load. Another new feature on the Forerunner 255 is HRV Status, and this is a really welcome sight. This will track your heart rate variability over time to get some insight into your daily overall wellness. Your heart rate variability can tell you a lot about your current training, or even if you're getting sick or you're not feeling well, it'll be represented in your HRV. You might notice that I do not have an HRV status yet, and that's because you need to wear the watch for 3 weeks before getting a status. Unfortunately, I've only had this watch for like 2.5 weeks, so I'll need to wear it a little bit longer before that pops up, but I will throw a graphic on the screen here where you can see what that will look like. This widget will also give you more information about your HRV, like your previous night's HRV, and your 7-day HRV over time, so you'll be able to tell if you see a big drop in your graph of your 7-day HRV that you're probably overtraining or you're just not feeling well. The next new feature I want to talk about is called Morning Report. And as you can see here, the Morning Report widget actually greets you when you wake up in the morning. This will offer pertinent information about your upcoming day, like the weather, your previous night's sleep, your recovery time from your last activity, your training status, your HRV status, and a daily suggested workout for the current day. And what's super cool about the Morning Report widget is that you can add and remove pieces of information from the Morning Report. Another new feature on the Forerunner 255 is the Race widget, and as the title suggests, this is a widget that displays upcoming races. Basically, you can go into your Garmin Connect app on your phone or the Garmin Connect website and add an upcoming event for a race. And in that upcoming event, you can put the distance, your goal time, what day it is, what time it starts, all of that information, and all of that information will sync over to your watch and be displayed in a widget throughout your day. So here you can see an upcoming race I have called the Chesterfield Gorge Ultra. That is 1 week and 2 days away. And if I dive into this widget, it gives me even more information about my race. So up top here, it says 1 week, 2 days to Chesterfield Gorge Ultra. And below that, this is super cool. It's got a forecast of the weather for that day. If I scroll down on this widget, I get even more information. This is my potential performance estimation. So you can see my goal time is actually 9 hours because this is a 50-mile ultra marathon. And Garmin thinks I can run it in 5 hours and 27 minutes, which is completely inaccurate, but I don't think this is designed for ultra marathon, so that might be why. I think if I was running something like a road marathon or a road 5K, this might look a little bit more accurate. Scrolling down again is a really useful widget giving me my hour-by-hour forecast for race day, which I really like. And scrolling down again, I get an elevation profile of the course at that race. Scrolling down one more time, we get the map of the race with the overall distance and elevation gain. The really interesting thing about this new race calendar is that it also seems to affect the daily suggested workouts generated by the watch. For example, I'm only about a week away from my next race, and the watch is actually suggesting that I taper and take it easy leading up to this race instead of suggesting a typical workout like a base workout, which is pretty cool. And I'll have to do some additional testing to understand really what's going on here, but it seems like a pretty big improvement on the suggested suggested workouts if you have races on the calendar. Okay, now let's talk about activity tracking and sports profiles on the new Forerunner 255, because this is an area where they made a big improvement. There are 30 plus built-in activities, and one of the biggest additions is the fact that there's now triathlon mode, as you can see here on the 255. Previously, before the 255, on the 245, the 235, they always excluded triathlon or multisport mode for whatever reason. But now on the 255, we have triathlon and multisport mode. That is good to see. The next new feature I want to talk about is native running power on the Garmin Forerunner 255. If you don't know, running power is essentially the measurement of how much effort your body is producing during your run. This is different than heart rate data because it's measuring how much energy your body is actually producing while you're running, and it's measuring that in watts, kind of like a light bulb. Previously, in order to collect running power data, you needed two things. You had to have a compatible sensor like the Garmin HRM Pro I have here, or the Running Dynamics Pod, and you had to download additional software, widgets, and Datafields to the watch itself. Now, out of the box, all you have to do is pair the sensor to the watch, and you will collect running power by default natively with no additional software. Unfortunately, this is not wrist-based running power like we're seeing in some of the competition. If you look at the Coros Pace 2 I have here, this is a $200 watch that collects running power from the wrist with no additional sensors, which is really cool. You're still gonna need a sensor paired to the watch in order to collect this metric with the Forerunner 255. Another thing to note about running power in general is that running power is different between devices. So as you can see here, I've been out on several runs while wearing the 255, a Stride Pod, a Coros watch, and all collecting running power data. And as you can see, the running power data is completely different, where Garmin tends to read a much higher wattage up in like 300-400 watts, where the Stride Pod is pretty low. That's not to say running power data is not useful. It's still a very useful metric. Just know it's not standardized across multiple devices or brands. Now, when you're actually in an activity, there's been another upgrade to the 255, and that it now supports up to 6 different data fields, as you can see here, rather than 4 on the previous model. Keep in mind, I only have the larger Forerunner 255 and not the smaller 255S. I'm pretty sure the 255S only supports 4 data fields, but the larger one does get 6 data fields. Another addition to the Garmin Forerunner 255 is the addition of Garmin Pay, which allows you to pay for stuff with the watch using the NFC chip inside the watch rather than taking out your credit card to make the transaction. Keep in mind, Garmin Pay is only compatible with certain banks and credit cards, so you'll have to check to see if yours is supported, but it is a nice feature to have. And that's kind of it when it comes to new stuff on the new Garmin Forerunner 255. But what's the same with the old 245? What do these two have in common? Well, both of these do support offline music if you go for the music models, where they can store music internally and play them back on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. Both also offer some form of breadcrumb navigation, where you can follow a pre-made course from Garmin Connect right on your watch on your wrist, and it'll actually alert you if you go off course, which is really handy. Both watches also do have smartwatch features, so you can read your phone notifications and calendar events right on your wrist without digging out your phone. And both watches do support body battery and wellness tracking, so you can track your steps and calories burned and how much energy you have throughout the day on both of these watches, along with advanced sleep tracking with advanced sleep analytics that'll tell you your deep sleep and light sleep and REM sleep. All of that stuff is the same between these two. The 245 and 255 both support Garmin Coach from training plans from 5K to marathon, and both do support external sensors from Ant Plus or Bluetooth like cadence or speed sensors, along with being compatible with Connect IQ for downloading more watch faces and widgets and data fields and more. So at the end of the day, what are my final thoughts about the Garmin Forerunner 255 after using it for the past few weeks? Is it worth getting? Is it worth your money? Well, yes it is. The Garmin Forerunner 255 strikes a really nice balance of price point to feature set, and it's right in the middle at $400. It is a little bit expensive, but it does offer a lot. And now with the Forerunner 255, you get improved heart rate accuracy with the new sensor on board. You've got a bigger, brighter display with brightness settings that you can actually adjust, and you've got that triathlon and multi-sport mode built in. All of these are welcome additions, and I feel like this is a really solid upgrade from the previous model. So what could be better about the Forerunner 255 is the touchscreen. I wish they added that in. I know it's probably a little bit more expensive, but it is a nice touch, and there are cheaper watches out in the world that do have a touchscreen, so I wish they added that. But for the most part, this is a really solid option at a really compelling price point, and honestly, I feel like this kind of kills the Garmin Forerunner 745 that I haven't even mentioned in this video. But Yeah, now I just did. But now I want to hear from you. Are you going to pick up a Garmin Forerunner 255? What features sold you on it? And if you're not getting it, what are you getting? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. And now that we've reached the end of this video, if you're still watching, you probably liked it. And if you did, I would really appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below, because that really helps me out. It helps my channel grow, and that'd be great. Also, if you're interested in picking up a 255, a 945, a 955, a Fenix 7, any watch, check out the links down in the description down below, because those links do help support my channel and I really appreciate you using them. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, if you end up buying your Forerunner 255 or any watch from playbetter.com, you can use code CTS at checkout and get one of these free stickers from Chase the Summit. So make sure you use that. Okay folks, that's all I've got for this one, and now that you're done with this video, you might as well go check out my Forerunner 955 review that I'll link somewhere on the screen, because that also came out today. And if you didn't click on it, I guess that's it. I guess we're done here. Gotta go. Bye.